The Fujicast is an independent loading zone production.
This week, Kev, I feel we should start with a...
Warning.
Somewhere in the UK, probably in London, there is an X100V missing in action. Kev lost his. How do you do that, Kev?
Well, I've been with you all day, and it went
don't
missing.
you start accusing me of taking it like your 35mm now.
I dropped you home
Right.
outside your house.
Yeah.
I got home,
Yeah.
and it's gone.
Oh, I have not got it. Has it really gone? Has it gone?
Yeah, I looked everywhere. I looked in my cupboard of rubbish where I put all my stuff that I never use. I looked in all my bags, looked everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'd resigned myself to the fact that it was gone, and then I found it again. I found it yesterday morning.
Drama over. Where did you find it? I bet it was underneath the driver's seat or something.
A whole 9 days later. No, it was actually in the bag that I went to London with.
So it was in the bag all along. But you didn't bring a big bag. It was a small bag.
That was the downfall. You see, I bought that little green kind of mansack thing.
Well, there's no space to lose anything in, Kev.
I know, but I couldn't remember using that bag, so I never looked in that bag.
Oh my God, this is the worst. This is the worst form and example of man looking ever.
The Fujicast.
I didn't think it would be in that bag, so I didn't bother looking.
I have some excuse. We are having our house Shifter Brick, who is an amazing interior designer who lives in Malmesbury.
I beg your pardon.
Do our house up.
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
Shifter Brick.
Oh, right.
Shifter Brick. Check her Instagram out. She's amazing.
I will.
And but everything has been moved in the house, you see. And so the little green bag was under something. And it was entirely my fault because I'd forgotten that I'd taken it in that green. As soon as I said to Gemma yesterday morning, I think I took that little green bag. She went, "Oh, I know where that is."
See, Gemma knew where it was without even having been on that London trip with us. She knew where it was.
Yes, because Gemma does wife looking.
Yeah.
I do husband.
Husband looking, yeah, or man looking. Generally,
which involves not actually looking.
Not actually looking. No. Well, I'm glad you found it because it's a small fortune to replace one these days.
I know. I was paranoid. I was like, oh my God, I've got all of the X100s. Don't want to lose it.
No. Anyway. Did you for one moment blame me in your? Did you say I bet Neil's got it?
But Gemma did. Gemma said
she did not.
You must have left it at Neil's. I said I didn't actually go into Neil's house. I just dropped him up. Didn't even drive into his enormous driveway. I just dropped him at the curbside.
I know. Well, we did tell security not to let your car back through.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. I'm glad you found it because I think you can find them now, can't you? They're not as rocking horse doodah as they were over the last 6 months or so, but they are still quite pricey when you do find one, aren't they?
Yeah. I really wanted to find it so I can think about selling it.
No,
I wouldn't.
No, as you say, you've got all the X100s.
Although I would if somebody offered me enough money. Would
you? No.
Yeah.
What's your
Everything's got a price. Everything's got a price.
Well, what's your price then?
Oh, I don't know. If somebody said to me, "I'll give you $3,000 for it," I'll go, "Yeah, all right." I was offered $2,500 for it about 6 months ago. No, not 6 months ago. When all the tickety stuff started happening.
Yeah. I think tickety top people have moved on to some other new shiny thing now. Magpie. Oh, look, a squirrel.
Yeah, that's right. I think they're watching Peppa Pig or something now, aren't they?
Oh, are they? What? It's an odd community.
It is, right. Anyway, on with the show, as they say.
Yeah. So today we haven't got a guest, but we're going to start doing something new from time to time. We're going to look at a film, which it won't be. We're not going to give you homework of the 1 hour variety. This is a 15 minutes film produced by Alex Kilby, and it's called Unravelling the Mystery of Boring Photography. And we've unravelled the film. Well, not really unravelled it, but we've watched the film, and we're going to do loosely a review later on, a bit like our books, aren't we? But we think
discussion.
A discussion, bringing films to you. It's a discussion because this idea of boring photography is something that you've championed for a long time, Kevin. I'm saying that carefully because I don't mean that your photography is boring. I mean this idea that you've always championed of making pictures that may seem boring today that will be anything but in the decades to to come.
Quite. Absolutely.
And there's one particular picture in that film, which is a bumper sticker, which I'm sure we might touch on anyway, that dates that film immediately, and you think, and straight away made me, because it was a political bumper sticker, think of going out to, because I took a little time photographing the stuff that's been said about Boris over the last, 3 years. And I've got a small collection, and they may not mean anything now, but maybe in 20, 30 years' time, like the bumper sticker we're going to talk about, they'll have slightly more currency, perhaps, artistic currency, or just interest currency. So that's to come. A mention to those who support us here, pick-time.com. For your support. A couple of weeks back, Kev, you reported that you'd made, I think there was a moment where you were, during the actual show, where 600 quid came in for you.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. It did, yeah. I had a pick time order. Yeah. It's in my bank account now.
Well, yeah. It's spent by now, I should think.
More than likely, yeah. I put some petrol in the car. Actually, I tell you what, where was I? Where'd I gone? I'd gone to a wedding on last Thursday, Devon or somewhere. I got diesel for £1.39.9.
What?
A litre.
Where?
It was Asda.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Asda.
Wow.
And so but it's really annoying, isn't it? Because I only had like a quarter of a tank empty, so I could only fill up for a quarter of a tank. Like around here, it's criminal. They're still doing us for like 172.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of the people are benefiting now. I think there's a lot of benefiting going on now where it doesn't need to be going on.
No, quite right. Absolutely.
The cost of living crisis is being, I can never say this word, exacerbated, made bigger.
Exasperated.
No, that's not the word. Made bigger by those what are really greedy. So, so thank you, pick-time.com, for your support for this show. As always, great place to go and show your wares, show your photography. If you're a social photographer, I can't imagine there'll be many reasons why you wouldn't have something like this if you're selling prints. I mean, I know other flavours are available, but we've established now, Kev, that this has to be by far the best looking one, and with all the extra features that you can now use.
So, login, galleries, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Plug it into your lab and away you go.
Absolutely.
Free 1 month with the code FUJICAST, capitals.
And like Kev, you'll make yourself 600 quid in a week. That's not a guarantee, by the way. You've got to have a wedding as good as what Kev takes.
T's and C's apply.
Yeah. Have you
actually saying that person who ordered that amount, I was at another wedding on Saturday, and I went into the to this place, really nice country hotel, and I saw him. The guy who'd ordered those prints from the previous wedding, which was about 18 months ago.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I walked in and I suddenly thought, oh my God, have I got the wrong note? Am I in the right place? Have I gone back in time or whatever? And he came over and said, oh, Kev, how are you doing?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, are you? And then I thought maybe he'd recommended me and he was a guest. And but no, he'd just been there with his mum, who was celebrating her 70th birthday the night before and was checking out.
I'm hoping you took lots of pictures of him and his family and stuff, so that this time he can spend a little bit more of that 600 quid type cash on you.
Who knows?
Right. Let's go for questions. Are you going first? Are you?
I'll go first. I've got one teed up.
Yeah.
Time-honoured tradition, I will start with the most recent one in the thread. Spencer Wynn, all the way from Canada. Remember, we had Spencer on the show. Very good photographer.
Yeah.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, Neil. I love the show. Yada, 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 yada. He says, Kevin, in a recent response to another listener's question, you very briefly mentioned the use of sync.com for your backups. Other than Sync being a Canadian company, it also has the apparent appeal of providing unlimited storage backups. I would like to know the difference between their individual plans, which looks as though they do not provide unlimited storage, versus their team's plans, where they do offer unlimited storage. I have, for many years, I'm going to say this in a deep voice,
I have, for many years, struggled with trying to find and establish a good storage regime.
It seems Sync is perfect for me. How do you use it in your workflow? Love the show, and save them up for long drives in the car, back and forth shoots. Every long drive in Canada, isn't it? Even if you just go into the co-op.
Just go to the co-op, that's it. Yeah, see you in about 8 hours. Bye.
Yeah.
They're just long, a bit like South Africa. Long roads, turn left at the end. Turn left at the Moose. You'll be fine.
Right, so yes, okay, we did mention sync.com, and that is what I use. So sync.com is, everybody will be, and obviously we're not nothing to do with sync.com. We're not getting any money from them or anything. It is a question. So say if you think of, most people have heard of Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, all that kind of stuff. So sync.com is the one that I use now because it is a lot cheaper for unlimited online storage. I currently have 18 terabytes in my sync.com online space. And you do need to have the Teams account, a little bit like Dropbox does. You can have unlimited storage on Dropbox, but they force you to have 3 users. Right. And it becomes very expensive. Sync.com, you do need to have 2 users, but it's approximately 3 times cheaper than Dropbox for unlimited storage. So on the individual plan, I think it's 5 terabytes is the is kind of the standard. But the unlimited one, you need to have 2 accounts. Not 2 accounts. You have 1 account, but you basically pay for 2 users, and both of those can then be unlimited. I'm only using 1 user, obviously, because that's all. It's just me. But I pay for it. So I'll tell you now, actually.
What do you pay for it?
$360 for the year is what I paid, which is, like I say, about 3 times cheaper than using Dropbox for similar thing.
Yeah,
Dropbox has a better interface.
Yeah,
Sync.com is a little kind of clunky in terms of the interface, although it does seem to be quicker in its uploads as well and downloads. So, yep.
I was going to drop into that conversation, Business G Suite with Google, but actually you still need... I thought you needed less than 5 users now, but it seems that you do need 5 users, which means...
What, for unlimited?
Yeah. So that's $60 a month. So no, I thought they'd gone the other way, which was very exciting for a moment, but no, I use Google because of the different accounts that I have. Mm-hmm. Which adds up to be, I suppose, quite an expensive service in some respects. But then, what price safety when your business hangs on it? And I always think, well, if Google goes down, we're all in trouble. So.
Yeah. But no, Sync.com is the one that I settled on eventually.
Yeah, it
I've
makes
been using
sense.
it for a few years now. Yeah.
This is just a comment, but I do have a question after that. Charles Wallace on Henri Cartier-Bresson. He's just finished the interviews book, which did we talk about the interviews book at some stage? We must have done. Did
maybe.
You were chuckling like it was a long time ago. It was like
maybe. I actually,
war.
As I turn around and look in my usually uncluttered studio, I now have all my books from at home have made their way to the studio along with various bits of old furniture and things like that.
Well, that's good.
Gemma and Shifter Brick have decided a persona non gratis in our new looking living room.
I'm still not absolutely sold on the idea of a company called Shifter Brick. I mean, it only takes
It's not a company. It's Bethan. She lives across the road.
But she's called it Shifter Brick.
Shifter Brick, yeah. She's brilliant. Look her up on Instagram. Amazing. You'll see our living room and Breezy the Whippet. Probably.
Really? Shifter Brick. I'm looking it up now. Shifter Brick. Shift. Is it just shift hyphen a brick?
No, all one word.
Shift a brick. Does she have a website then?
I don't think so.
Shift
I
a
don't
brick.
know, maybe.
And her name's Bethan. Right. Oh, here we are. She comes up straight away. Instagram. That's a good search. Number 1 in Google and Instagram here. Where's your house?
There you go. So the fourth one is she's got 3 pinned ones, and then the 4th one is our...
Yeah, look, there's...
Breezy.
You can look into Mullins' home. Look at that. You sure it's not the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the 9th one along, with a chap hanging from the banisters there? That looks like what Gemma forces you to do on a Saturday if you've been misbehaving yourself.
If you look at that one with Breezy, it's a before and after. So you'll see in the before one, you'll see all of my photo books, and in the after one,
oh yeah,
they're gone.
So what's her job then? What does she do?
She's amazing actually. She's like a I suppose you'd call it an interior designer if you look through her her thing. But it's mostly about kind of upcycling, recycling, all of that. Obviously, we've had to pay for paints and everything, but pretty much everything else is. She just kind of went round the house and decided that would look good there. This looks good here.
So basically, she took all your shit out, threw it into your office. And then Instagrammed the place. Yeah,
basically. Yeah. But she's done an amazing. She has actually, because me and Gemma, it's finished now. Well, we're doing the kitchen next, but Gemma's like, Kev, we're adults. We're actually adults. We've got an adult room.
Yeah,
we no longer have a teenager, student house.
Yeah. Oh, I see you went for the posh paint at Farrow and Ball.
Yeah. Don't talk to me about the price of paint.
Oh, dear. Right, okay. Enough of it. It's not the interior designer show. But nice job. She has done a nice job there. And
Great job.
I like
Amazing.
the positioning of a dog stapled to the chair so it won't get up and walk off while the photo shoot's going on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That brings his standard position for 23 hours of the day.
Oh, is it? What, asleep on a sofa?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, the Henri Cartier-Bresson book, he says, I'm careful with the word hero at this point in my life, but I certainly find inspiration in his art. I'm trying to define my own sense of photographic vision and have chosen to look at those I admire to guide my way. Neil and Kev, you've introduced me to so many new avenues of inspiration through their podcasts and blogs, and I'm excited to count you amongst them. Cheers to you, sirs. There we go. Charles Wallace. And then there was a question from, do you remember Judith Chalmers?
Yeah.
The holiday lady?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is her son, Stuart Chalmers. Hi, Neil and Kev. Loving the show and have a question about lenses for travelling. I'm planning a trip of a lifetime in November to see the pyramids in ancient Egypt. Valley of the Kings, that is. Cruise down the Nile to Aswan, so I expect to shoot street, dark temples, architecture, macro and wildlife, all in one trip. I'm looking for one additional lens to complement my proposed travel set. He has a Samsung 12mm f2, Fuji 18-1.4, Fuji 30 f2.8 macro, and the 70-300. The choice I'm trying to decide between is, these are the three lenses, Kev, knowing now what he has. Would you choose the 16-55 2.8, the 56 1.2, and the 60-80 f4? Straight away, I'm going to suggest the f6, because I think he kind of has the 56. What am I talking about? The 56 1.2, because he already has he's got a 12, he's got an 18, so he's kind of, and a 30. So that's 16-55, not so necessary. 16-80, perhaps the same. I'd say 56. Get yourself a nice something where you can really open up wide and maybe make some cracking portraits with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if it was me, and I appreciate it's not me, but if it was me, I would probably just take the 30mm macro, to be totally honest with you, because that lens, I haven't got that lens, but I know it's a stellar, super amazing macro and portrait, and it's right bang in the middle, isn't it? So you can do you'll be able to get decent pictures of the massive yellow triangles in the desert and all that kind of stuff.
Well, no, I think you'll need the 18. When you get close to those things, oof.
Yeah, a couple of steps back, you'll be all right.
Oh, couple of steps. So are you not suggesting that he takes any of the extra list? I think that 56 would be a marvellous one to take.
I mean, I just, like...
You will need it in the pyramids, because there are some moments in that pyramid where you want to shoot into the distance and you want some... I tell you what, it's very dark in there. I've been in there. Made slide pictures in there, actually. So you need something that has a bit of throw. I think that 56 will be great. You certainly don't need a 70-300 in there, and it wouldn't be the best lens for light anyway. That 56 is going to do you proud, because you can go in the pyramids again. For a long, long time you couldn't, and now they're open to the public. And I tell you what, it's just incredible. It's warm, by the way, and sometimes very tight. But I think you'll need a 56 in there. And an 18, really, 1.4.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I my point being, if the more you take, the more time you'll just spend fannying about deciding what lenses to take a picture with.
Sure.
So I would definitely keep it to a maximum of 2 lenses, personally, whenever I've travelled anywhere.
Yeah. Well, when you can find the camera again, because it's in the other bag.
When I can find the camera again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, definitely that 30 is the choice. And then, yeah, as Neil says, I've never been there, so I don't know, but maybe something that's going to allow you to get, if you're going to be taking pictures inside in the dark, then perhaps that 56 1.2.
It is it's an incredible place to go and visit. It's unlike any other experience you'll have, and it might be a bit touristy. Well, it's very touristy, and it's thronging with tourists. But I tell you, when you go in there, it's a weird, I almost want to sound, without sounding too woo-woo, a spiritual experience. That's if you can, just don't follow a big crowd of tourists, because there are some moments where you're going up and down on small wooden plank ladders where you don't want to be behind people. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. For info, my camera is an XH1, which will be good, won't it? 12 for architecture, 18 for general use, 30 for macro, 70 to 300 for the Nile cruise to get pictures from the boat. Blimey. But yeah, you're right, Kev. I think yeah. Actually, the Nile is quite wide in places, so you might need something with like 300. Just be able to get those Nile crocodiles before they get you. Anyway,
I've been in denial for years.
Okay. Whoa. I think we have time for. Do we have time for one more before? Go on.
Yeah. Vlad U Sim says, "Hello, Kevin. Hello, Neil. I'm having a bit of a dilemma. My usual end result is either a magazine, vertical, book, and or horizontal video 16:9 photo movie. This requires taking photos in both orientations, sometimes even the same photo. How do you deal with it? I wish every media was just square."
That would be handy, wouldn't it? It almost was all those years ago with telly, wasn't it? What was it, 4:3?
It does my head in that, like photo frames, cameras 3x2, photo frames 10x8, TVs 16:9, and now like YouTube, they even 16:8 or something. I don't know, whatever.
Has YouTube changed then? Is it changed?
Well, no, there's the fancy pants people do it even wider and narrower, don't they? So like you're looking through, you have to squint to look. It's like you're watching something through a letterbox.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It is a pain in the butt. However, there's no real answer to it. I don't. If your remit is to make movies, photo movies, that is 16:9 orientation, and you need to put them in a book that's vertical, you're stuck without. I'm not a fan of books where the print goes across the spine, but sometimes that's the only way you'd be able to do it. Otherwise, you're going to have, if you're shooting at 16:9 with the intention of putting them in the photo movie, and then it goes into a book, they're going to be way too small on a vertical page. Unless, of course, I've got plenty of books where you have to just turn it to the left and look at the page the other way. So yeah, it depends. I don't really have enough context of what you're producing here to say anything, but yeah, it's a pain.
Has Shifter,
and I feel your pain.
Has Shifter Brick put any of those fancy electronic frames in your house?
No, none of that. None of that.
Is that
doesn't go there with Faro and ball paint?
Or is it not posh enough?
I did say to her, I said, I'm going to change some of these books for some of the other ones that have been sent to the studio. She said, well, yeah, you can do that, but you must run it by me first to make sure the colour scheme of the spines work.
Oh, Kev, you've changed. They'll be taking your socialist card away, I'm telling you.
Bless her.
What books are on the side? I'm just looking at the Instagram thing, but of course the picture's not quite large enough for me to work out what the books are. I
don't know. I don't know. All I know is that I now have about 200 new books in my studio.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know which ones. Because I've been around. I'm basically exhausted for the last 5 days and stuff. I've been out and about weddings and stuff, so I don't know what survived and what hasn't. All I know is that
she's put your Anton Corbijn 1, 2, 3, 4 book. She's put that in your. She's put that in your posh what's it case now, so you can't read it anymore because it's got some sort of cut glass thing on the top of it.
No, there's no glass there.
Yeah, there is. There's a big bowl on it.
That. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. And there's the little clay model that Gemma made of me on the bottom shelf.
It looks here like it's got a little dangly on it as well, which I'm not sure about that, Kev.
For those wondering what the hell we're on about, it's actually a Buddha, the model of Buddha.
No. Well, it looks like a Buddha with a some sort of cap on, and above it we must put a link to this, by the way. And above it there's 2 little like milk jugs there. They look very similar to one what we sold at the car boot yesterday for £2. Hey? Well, so I got those free. I should have sent it to you, Kev.
You should have done, because they were entirely free. I picked them up on last Sunday on the way back from church. Walked past a house, and they were on their wall, and there was 4 of them. Just said free. There's loads of stuff there free. Yeah. So I picked up those 2.
So you've
with the intention of bringing them to the studio, because I like to do flower photography to keep me sane. But they never made it to the studio.
Oh.
Bethard and Gemma decided they would go on the shelf.
Yeah. Well, they do look good on the shelf. Yeah.
They do look good on the shelf.
Right. One more question, and then we'll break for our film. Dear Kev and Neil, I'm really asking this on behalf of a friend. Oh, I'm never sure about questions like that, Kev. I'm just asking for a friend. Yeah.
He's got a rash and he doesn't know. He went to Merthyr Tydfil, came back with a rash.
What's the biggest club in Merthyr? Is there a nightclub?
I don't even know if there is any clubs there. Yeah, well, there's plenty of rugby clubs.
Yeah, I have a neighbour who's setting up a small business at home making high quality cakes to order. So far, she's taken orders from people in the local area for things like birthday cakes, coronation celebration cakes, Eid celebration cakes, and so on and so forth. I'm not quite sure where this is going photographically, Kev, but bear with me. But it strikes me she might make more money if she made cakes for larger events. Ah, I see where you're going. Such as weddings, where the price of a cake is just one small part of the cost of the whole event. It seems to me like you're saying, I thought he was just about to say, well, the price of cake, you can add a zero on the end. Based on your experience in the wedding industry and possibly from photographing corporate events, do you have any suggestions for how she might be able to break into these markets? Who will be the key decision makers? Is it wedding planners, caterers, perhaps even venue managers? Any advice you can offer would be welcome. He has an aside here. I've done a few product shots of her cakes to use in marketing. Been using the TT Artisan 40mm 2.8 manual focus macro lens on a Fujifilm X-T4. I thought listeners might be interested to know that it's remarkably good as being cheap as chips. It's only £100. My God, what chip shops do you go to? That's from Will Collin. Corporate events and wedding. Well, I don't know much about cakes at corporate events, I have to say. And if there are cakes at corporate events, I bet you they've been made or ordered in by the caterer. But at weddings, of course, yeah, they're a separate industry altogether. And for a while, they were quite a big industry. In much the same way as wedding photographers, Kev, I think I'm seeing more relatives / friends bringing cakes as opposed to professionals these days. Yeah.
And I actually had this is a salient point. I was talking to the cake lady at Saturday's wedding.
Right.
She was popping it onto the shelf and all that kind of stuff.
Not always cake lady, sometimes cake man, but often cake lady.
It was a cake lady in this case. Yeah. And I was saying to her, oh, that's beautiful. That is a lovely cake, blah, 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 blah. And then we got chatting about the industry a bit. And she was saying, yeah, it's much harder for them these days. And she squarely blamed the Great British Bake Off.
Did she? I thought for a minute you were going to say she squarely blamed places like Marks and Spencer's, who make amazing wedding cakes. We're not being paid for that, but they do. But no, the Bake Off. Yeah, I get it.
She basically said the Great British Bake Off and lockdown together.
Yeah.
It made everybody just learn to bake or certainly thinks they can bake, and pretty much everybody has somebody in the family who's really good at it now, and so they say, "Oh, could you do a wedding cake for us?"
God, I see that, Kev. That's a very, very good point. Yeah, because that program is massive, certainly in the UK, and I think there are variants of it. I don't like the word variant outside the UK as well, and different markets, different TV markets. I'm sure. And the Great British Bake Off anyway has been a great British export as far as telly's concerned as well. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
It's
funny how these kind of little kinks in the universe can affect different things,
Yeah, but I totally get it. Why do you hate the Bake Off, by the way? I never thought it's quite benign, really. It's not anything worth hating, is it?
It's dull. I don't like many things. I like.
Can we just clip
I like
that?
Following from account.
Hang on, can we just clip that from Kevin? I don't like many things.
I like things that are not with real people who are trying to pretend that there's something there. They want to be celebrities and all that kind of stuff. I hate it. Turn the telly on these days, and it's just rubbish.
No, these are people baking cakes, Kev. They're not want to be celebs in that respect.
Yeah,
although a few of them have gone on to have good businesses out of it. But no, I quite like it. Don't you like it when you think, oh, that cake's melting in front of my very eyes?
I don't know. I don't watch it enough. But you're right. I'm being disingenuous to the people that go on there. Do
you like MasterChef? What about MasterChef?
Oh no, that's just, I don't like. MasterChef is a little bit better. I prefer MasterChef if I have to watch it. Yeah. But I don't like, what's his name, the presenter, not the guy I played rugby with once, the Australian guy, chap.
John Turode.
Yeah, I can't stand it when he puts something in his mouth and eats. It makes me want to.
Oh, he does. Yeah, he does.
Throw something at the telly.
Yeah, Jack says that. He's jamming.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
he is jamming,
and he can't say pasta. He always says pasta. I always think, is he talking about the person that's at the local church just down the road?
Anyway, we're right off.
We are right off there.
And the answer is, I have no idea how you become a well-respected cake. I would presume. I think it's probably the caterers are the people to get into bed with, rather than.
Well, I don't know, because I think they're going to be the ones that will make their own. They don't want somebody supplying when they can do it. I wonder. Well,
do they do that though?
Yeah, I think they do. Will has probably done a good thing here. No, definitely done a good thing. You've done product shots of the cakes to use in marketing, and then I guess the next thing is really you're going to have to go in Instagramming, and and a local market. Get into a local market. That's the best thing, because you're not going to be travelling for miles with these cakes anyway. And try and get into the and try and become a supplier for venues. Those
awful, goddamn awful things people do on Sunday afternoons.
What's that?
Go to them wedding fairs.
Hang on, another thing Kevin doesn't like.
Oh, I've got a massive book of things I don't like.
What would be
volumes and volumes of it?
Well, are they the books that are on your new shelf put there by Shifter Brick?
Yeah, and I've got a little post-it note on my wall of all the things I like.
Oh dear. Dare I ask if we're on that list? No, don't even attempt to answer that question. Something new for this week that we're going to try out over the coming months, and that is films, looking at films. And films mainly from YouTube, so that everybody gets a chance to go and see the film and experience what we experienced when we were watching it. You've watched it, I assume, the Unraveling the Mystery of Boring Photography film, which is on the Photographic Eyes channel.
Yeah, I have. And of course, what we'll do when we do these little features is include the video in the show notes on the website, so they can just go and look at it as well if they so wish.
But the idea is you'll get an idea of what we're talking about purely from the conversations that are created from the content that's within the videos. And this one actually is, in some respects, an old chestnut when it comes to something we talk about reasonably often on the show, which is what is boring photography. And we talk about legacy a lot with photography. And the premise of this film, it's about William Eggleston's pictures. And it's called The Eggleston Dilemma, Unraveling the Mystery of Boring Photography, in which Alex Kilby talks about, well, he says, have you ever looked at William Eggleston's photos and scratched your head? Wonder what the point is about them. However, when you scratch a little deeper into his photography, there's a set of lessons to discover which will change the way perhaps you think about taking photographs. I put the perhaps in because I'm not sure that everybody subscribes to Eggleston's way of photography. Do you, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid point. I actually quite like the William Eggleston stuff. Well, interestingly, I like the William Eggleston look.
Yeah, which is,
well, the kind of way that he printed his prints, and the film that he was using, which I think is Kodachrome in a lot of the times. Yeah. You can see a picture, William Eggleston picture, I think, and then go, yeah, that's one of his, because of the way it looks, but also because of the content. And it is a little bit of a head scratcher for some people.
Let's play a few segments from this film by Alex, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
Boring photography. It just seems random pictures of anything. Often, you look at them and kind of go, what is the point of this? That's where most people leave this thing. However, when you start digging a bit deeper into these photographs, there are ideas, approaches, ways of thinking about taking photographs that start to help you inform your own picture making process. And there's a couple of lessons in here which, when you look at them, go, wow, what a revolutionary idea that they just set your mind free. Your photographs don't have to have meaning. Often when people look at William Eggleston and Stephen Shaw and other people who were working in this kind of like 1960s, 1970s America, they would say, well, their work is so important now because, well, it's full of nostalgia and it's full of, I want to go back and the world looks different. And of course it does. But put it into context and think about the world that Eggleston was working in. So all of the famous photographers, as I mentioned, the Ansel Adamses and the Westons and all these serious people were working in black and white. And along comes Eggleston and all the other guys who pioneered the use of color, and they start saying, no, we don't want to work in black and white. We're going to do color, and we're going to photograph things that aren't painterly, for want of a better word. That they're not the things that, the artists would like.
Okay, Kev, so Alex asks, what is real photography? And I guess really there isn't really a definitive answer to that, is there? What's real? Is wedding real? Is photojournalism real? Is abstract real? I suppose the only real you can attach to it now is AI real. And even then you could say that's artwork, couldn't you? Or art photography, rather.
Yeah, I guess, the AI thing has kind of hit us like a train, hasn't it? But I don't think really this video is kind of referring to that kind of stuff. It's more about, why some people like a particular picture and other people don't. And some people might think it's boring and others don't. For example, I don't particularly like those milky seascape type pictures,
You don't.
but plenty of people do.
Yeah.
I find them excruciatingly boring to look at.
No, you don't find that sort of inner peace within those milky waves, do you really?
No, because it doesn't look like what was there, and that's part of my makeup. Is I like pictures of reality, So I like William Eggleston stuff, even though a lot of the pictures, I've got the film playing now as we're talking, and there's that one of the light switch, not the light switch, the light bulb hanging.
But that's the famous one, isn't it? That one.
Exactly.
The red. God knows what kind of establishment he was in. It's a red ceiling, a red walls, with one bare light bulb hanging down.
As Alex Kilby says in his video, when you break things down, you can actually go beyond the subject. So, we've talked a lot about three elements like composition, moment, and just simply a composition of this picture is strong. But it does not mean that the composition alone will make it an interesting picture to other people, to everybody.
Usually he'd only take one picture, wouldn't he, of each place he went to? Otherwise, he said he got a bit confused later on and he couldn't remember where he would be if he had lots of different choices. But there's not lots of people in these pictures, are there?
No, and some of the images remind me a little bit of your Instagram channel where you take pictures of toilets. There is one in the toilet with the old-fashioned curlers and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you look at that picture, it's a pink toilet suite, pink bath, wooden toilet lid, those old-fashioned curlers and the heating mechanism that goes with it, toothbrush, like my mum had those curlers exactly the same as that. And this is what I've always talked about when I say, take pictures of things like this, because you might not think it's interesting now, but in the future it will be. And God damn it, William Eggleston's books sell and his prints sell, and it's entirely based on nostalgia.
Well, I think of stuff like Auntie Nellie's bathroom in that respect. That bathroom thing, by the way, I don't go around just photographing people in toilets.
No. You might want to just clarify that.
Just clean that one up. Bathroom Travels is a very undersupported but loyal channel on Instagram where I photograph the strange bathrooms I find, and now other people find, by the way, Kev. So always feel you can be a guestographer if you want around the world, including recent toilets in Nepal, one looking out onto a mountain. Nothing to stop the goat chap or the herder in front of you walking by and saying, "Oh, good morning," and stuff like that. But yeah, that's that's what I mean by that. I can't remember where we were now. What was your
the nostalgia? We were talking about his pink toilet.
Yeah, my auntie Nellie's toilet. She used to knit those. Do you remember the toilet roll holders that used to go over? They were covers, weren't they? And they usually they were like something like a sheep or
ballet dancer or something.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. And
Fairy.
also, fairy, that's right. My grandma's house with soap. I think we've mentioned this one before. Soap. You know soap to look like fruits?
Yeah,
but, nobody does that now. Can you still buy soap that's made in the shape of fruits? That's a truly nostalgic thing for me from the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. And, going back to the film, that is the kind of thing a lot of people, like if my mum was looking at this picture right now, she'd be like, I don't get it, because she just doesn't have that kind of mindset. But others will. That's why the title of the film is quite interesting in calling it The Unraveling the Mystery of Boring Photography. I don't think you'll ever get to a point where everybody likes everything. That's just not a realistic thing, and neither should it be. So I don't think you can unravel the mystery of such, but you can certainly discuss it. And I think by focusing on William Eggleston, he's picked a great candidate for that, because he is a much confused photographer. Well, no, he's not a confused photographer, but people who look at his works possibly are.
Well, I think there's a bit in the film where he plays just a segment of another film where William Eggleston is trying to answer the question, what are you photographing? And he says, life today.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's nothing more than that. There's a huge, long gap after it. But he did say, and this is like when your mum says, well, what's the point? Alex was, one thing he said was, your photographs don't have to have meaning. They don't have to have meaning. But I suppose if you're photographing, as he rightly points out, news, then yes, it has to have meaning, because there's a narrative attached to it. There's something that people need to read from that picture. And actually, William Eggleston photographed, I couldn't believe that he'd photographed a wedding. Can you imagine?
Most people do, though, don't they? Everybody does it over their Times careers at some point, don't they?
Yeah, but the thing that William Eggleston returned when he returned the pictures was ashtrays and pictures of the sky.
Yeah, it's like Martin Parr's weddings when he did. He's done a couple of weddings. The same thing.
Has he? Is that what he did?
Yeah, same kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favourite. Who's that? Kev. He came across to your ex-weddings.
Facundo.
Facundo, I'm so sorry if you're listening.
Facundo Santana.
That's it. One of my favourite pictures ever of his is the picture of a wedding at the end. No, I don't think there was anybody in it. It's literally stacked tables at the end of a night, which says so much, doesn't it? I mean, there's a closing image, and I suppose a sort of Eggleston-ish kind of image. But what do you think of the film?
Yeah, it's good. It's interesting. I'm not a massive fan, I have to say, of utilizing other people's pictures, as a focal point for a whole video. But in this case, it works, and then that got me thinking actually about why I don't particularly like that. And then I was thinking, actually, when you watch a documentary on television or something like that, that's exactly what that is. So there's no real reason for me not to like that.
No, because Ted Forbes, the Art of Photography channel, that was what it was about in the early days, mainly, wasn't it? I think. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't know. I prefer it when people are using their own photos to make a point, but doesn't mean it's wrong. Of course, it's a really good video. It's actually a really well presented, well put together video. And it's an interesting. The Photographic Eye is a very interesting channel. Actually,
I tell you what, he's done well. He's built this channel brick by brick by brick firmly over the last year. 162,000 subscribers now. And a lot of it, Eggleston is for photographers anyway, a well-known name, but for many who visit his channel, maybe an entirely new name, because I suspect they're not necessarily taught it in. I was talking to somebody the other day who was doing photography A-level, and I ran a whole load of names, including yours, Kev. They didn't get a single name, obviously yours. I thought, what are you teaching at photography lessons for A-level?
Yeah. So it's weird.
Yeah. Right, well, that's the Photographic Eye, Unraveling the Mystery of Boring Photography, and we'll leave a link. Right, back to questions. Kev, do you want to go first, or shall I?
Go on, you go.
Right, I've got one from Taiwan, which gives me an opportunity, Kev, to play a brand new jingle. I was searching for some music the other day, and I found something that goes very well with something you say. Hello, gents. Right. I'm Gilbert from Taiwan. Thanks, first of all, for all the wonderful shows you do. Yada, yada. Yada, 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 yada. See, there we go. Somebody's written a song for you, Kev. I should finish this email really fast so my colleagues won't spot me doing this in office time. Well, you better crack on then. I've got 2 questions. We'll take it one by one. What's your thoughts or thought about the 2 Pro Neg film simulations? It's marketed to provide best skin tones. Do you agree, or do you ever use it? Well, from my side, no, I don't use Pro Neg. I go straight up top, Kev, and use standard, and I'm very, very happy with it. And on JPEGs, I just add it's all dashes for me, a dash of contrast, a reasonable amount of shadows, come down on the black slider, and that for me is pretty much a finished image on that film simulation.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I have to say I don't really use the Pro Neg ones too much. Never have. The great thing about Fujifilm cameras really is all of those film simulations, and there's like an entire what's the word, kind of marketplace that has grown up, recipes and all that kind of stuff, different variants of things.
Well, don't use the variant word, Kev. Don't use the V word.
Sorry. And since you've been able to change the color tones and all of that kind of stuff, it's really, some people are being very creative with those. I tend to not use the standard JPEG base settings just by themselves. If I'm shooting JPEG, I'm usually adjusting them slightly.
You have some. Well, I was going to say presets, but that's the wrong word, isn't it? But you have a setup that you've talked about. I think you've had it in the past on F16, haven't you? Your which will now be on Kevin Mullins photography.co.uk. But you've had it in the past on that, haven't you?
Yeah. One of my biggest YouTube videos was
your menu
2020, my JPEG settings. Yeah. But lots of different ones. But there's, it's brilliant. But a lot of people will still shoot RAW. you know? And then it becomes irrelevant. But yeah.
Question 2 about HEIC images. So that's high efficiency image file. It's an Apple flavored thing mainly, isn't it?
It may have started there. I think it's an open source, might have been started by Apple for highly compressed images, typically off a mobile phone, but it's a standard. So now it's on cameras as well.
It was started in the last few years of the last decade, wasn't it? I think with the new generation of X processor supporting directly shooting in HEIC, I've become, it's very sexy that, isn't it? I've become very excited to see HEIC.
No, it's not at all sexy.
I know I'm being facetious, taking over the reign of JPEG for its smaller size and better quality. It should save a whole load of storage space while keeping better looking images, and it sounds too good to be true. Normally things in life, Kev, if they sound too good to be true, they probably are. What about this one though?
No, I don't see any reason why they are too good to be true. You'll find that quite a bit of software doesn't support it. That's the only thing.
Right. Lightroom does though, doesn't it?
Lightroom does now. Didn't for a long time. I have no idea about Capture One. I presume it probably does, but a lot of apps will not support HEIC files. So that's just double check the app that you're using for your editing or processing does support it. But yeah, I think. From what I can tell, there's they're not slower to record. No. There's nothing really negative about them. They're just a better compression ratio than JPEGs. And as far as I understand it, I don't know that much about it, I have to say, but as far as I understand it, they also have a wider color gamut, so should be even better quality.
He wonders why people aren't excited about the change. I mean, what's not to love about it?
I think it probably doesn't get as wide a kind of acceptance because the fact that so few applications will support it. I think it'll probably be the professional applications will support it. Definitely the Apple kind of photos and all that kind of stuff on your phone will support it. For example, I have no idea if my Android phone supports it.
Right. Facebook, yours.
Yes. Okay. Right. Let's just have a look.
Do we need more Facebook questions? Are we in that?
We got a few, but it's always good to have more. It's always good to have more.
And on the email front as well, by the way, click at fujicast.co.uk.
Yeah, I'm going to actually scroll back a few months because there's some people we forgot, I reckon. Here's one from our good friend. I've got two. So we'll do Steve first.
We've only got two friends.
I've only got two friends. No, one, and that's you. If you were on a desert island and only had one lens you could use, what would it be from any camera system from now or in the past? And for him, Steve says it's the Sony 24mm f1.4 GM. It's an extraordinary lens, he says.
Yeah. Well, if it was Canon flavoured, it would be the f2 35mm. So not the expensive.
No, listen. You didn't hear the question, did you? If you only had one lens, so you can only pick one. You can't do one from Canon, one from Fuji, one from Sony, blah blah blah.
Well, I might be changing my name though. I might be changing my thoughts.
You already changed your name once in your life. You can't do it again.
I didn't mean name. I meant thoughts. I am confused, as you can hear. Go on. Yes. The question is just one lens, then, is it?
Yeah.
As of today, I would choose the 56mm 1.2
Fujifilm.
Yeah, because when I look back, if I did an image count at the end of one of my weddings, a lot of the images are from that 56, and my favourite ones usually are from that 56, which is strange because a lot of the pictures I show on the website include stuff made at a much shorter focal length for storytelling. But I'm only allowed one, you see, Kev.
Just one.
I'm only allowed one, so if I've got to choose one, that's the one I would choose. And I'd have to run back along the beach on this desert island or wherever we've been cast adrift with this one lens.
If we're stuck on the desert island together, we'll be covered because I'll take the 18mm and then
there we go.
We'll be happy. And then Steve, we wouldn't talk to Steve really anyway. He'd be at the other end of the island with
we'd have eaten Steve already.
Lens.
No, we'd have eaten him. No,
I won't eat him. I'm not eating him.
It'd be toast. No, it would be. Yeah. No, you wouldn't know, Kev, because I'd say...
I'd use him as bait.
Kev,
I'd use him as bait to get in the nice fish.
No, but yeah. No, Kev, I've done tonight's supper. You'll love it. What is it, Neil? Shark. You'd be eating Steve.
Finger of Vaughan. It's a finger of Vaughan.
No.
A finger of Vaughan is just enough to...
Don't you dare finish that sentence.
Right. Okay. I'm going to do another question because this one's been hanging around.
Is it another one from Steve? Is it one where we eat him on the desert island again?
It's John St. John.
Oh yes,
Remember John? Right. I haven't read it actually, but here we go. Good morning, guys and girls.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Just listening to today's This was 9 weeks ago. Oh. Just listening to today's podcast and following a question. Kevin Mullins Photography says he'd like the mythical global shutter.
Oh, you did?
The powerhouse that is the Nikon Z9 doesn't use a shutter at all. So although not a global shutter, it does use exclusively an electronic shutter. Right. Is this the new way forward? No moving parts and no wear. That's interesting. I never knew that.
I didn't know that about the Z9 either. Does that change your mind on camera systems?
Yeah, I don't know. I literally have no idea how that thing works. Yeah, it must just be digital photography, like a phone presumably does it. So maybe there's more processing that goes in. Maybe it's slower. I don't know.
Perhaps we've got to learn how.
Z9 can tell us.
Learn how to say the name first.
Nikon.
Oh, that's right, Nikon. Nikon Z9. Let me look it up. Nikon Z9. Oh, I can't afford that, Kev. It's not even a consideration. So I don't care what shutter it's got. What if that goes wrong on the desert island?
£5,300. But it's only kind of GFX kind of
I suppose so.
Price, isn't it? I suppose. Well, actually, it's not. It's more than that. GFX is about 3.5.
45.7 megapixel full frame flagship mirrorless camera. From what's so special about that it shoots extremely well at 120 frames per second with full autofocus and auto exposure tracking. No other camera can run at this frame rate with this high resolution with full tracking, autofocus and exposure.
It doesn't say anything about the sensor though, does it?
There's nothing about the sensor. No. Just says it's very good for bird photography.
Well, Ken Rockwell's got a nice review of it, so I'm sure if he knows it, his technical underpants for sure. So you can probably look at that on there. Massive camera though, isn't it? Look at that.
It's huge. It's like a brick, isn't it? I mean, it's a weaponized thing, that isn't it?
I do like if we're looking at I mean, obviously I love my Fujifilm, the looks of my Fujifilm cameras, but if we're talking about other brands, I do prefer the look of Nikon cameras over Canon and certainly Sony. Sony cameras are ugly, but Canon cameras are not so bad. Nikon is a better looking.
You never make friends when you're talking about Sony. Is Sony?
I've got many friends who shoot Sony and they make amazing pictures with it, and that's all that matters, I suppose. But I just don't like the look at them. And they just look uninspiring and boring. Whereas this Nikon, I suppose it comes from the fact that Nikon, did some amazing 35mm cameras back in the day, and they've kind of kept a little bit of that design ethic.
Well, it looks very, very similar to the Nikon F5 film camera that I've got, which is a beautiful looking camera. That too is very, very weighty. Ken Batchelor. I think we've had one very similar to this because Ken asked us about AI before, but it might be a reworded, remanufactured question here. Hi, folks. Great program, etc. Doesn't say yada, so it doesn't bring on the jingle. I've been thinking, a dangerous thing I know, with the rise of AI-generated images, it's going to be very difficult to authenticate images as real, making forensic or press a real nightmare. If an image is only available in digital form, it seems to me that it will inevitably be suspect. If not today, then certainly in the coming years. Is this an opportunity for forward-looking companies, are you listening Fujifilm, to produce specialist cameras with additional security measures? We had a very, very similar question to it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think it was the same question.
No, because the one above it I've crossed out, so that's the one I read.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You would have. I mean, look, all cameras these days, something big has to happen. I think Fujifilm have kind of started that process with the Frame IO. I call it Frame IO. It's not called Frame IO, is it? But it's the clouds, images to cloud and film to cloud, which I invented, by the way. I've been talking about that for years on this podcast. Yes. Oh. You go back to about 3 years ago, and I was saying that's what I would love to see: film and stills to clouds directly from the camera. And then, lo and behold, some very big company with lots of money went and did it.
Actually, you also said you'd like them to be uploaded and edited. By the time that you've got into your car and driven home, you'll have an entire wedding done.
That will happen. Yeah, that will happen. I could write the code to do that easily, but it's the mechanism of it's the mechanism. I get ChatGPT to do it for me. It's the mechanism of getting it from the camera to the cloud is the challenge. And right now, it's all tied up in that Adobe framework. But eventually, I see all cameras, doing that. You'll have some kind of Dropbox connection on your phone or on your camera, and all of that kind of stuff will start happening.
5G is good, but it's not that good, is it?
Maybe if you're on Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever. It'll only get better. That kind of stuff is very, very likely to happen, I think.
I found out the other day, just before we do the final question, which you can do from Facebook, and it's a UK thing, but I was talking to a member of the band at a wedding. Who was the forensics thing is just, even though it's not forensics, he was a hospital photographer. So the forensics thing has just reminded me because of the similarities perhaps in some of the work that they did. And he said he left it because consultants now are making their own images. They don't need the fancy camera setup anymore because they've got smartphones and they consider that good enough. Whereas sometimes he was making pictures of, or sometimes hideous stuff, Kev, that would then have to be proved in a court of law, etc. You can imagine the kind of stuff he was needing to photograph. So a simple iPhone picture or other flavours available, probably I wouldn't have thought was good enough. But what shocked me more than that was the fact that he says a lot of hospitals in NHS trusts, not trusts, I'm getting the shakes, trusts, up and down the UK have amazing photographic equipment that will never, ever see the light of day because it's now in a cupboard. But because of the way the NHS works, they're not allowed to give it away and they're not allowed to sell it. So one thing they do, apparently, allegedly, is bin it.
Wow.
Isn't that a waste of money? Honestly. And you could send it to a college, a uni, a school, a whatever, charity.
Don't make me political. Don't make me political.
Well, I'm trying, Kev. I'm pushing. That's not necessarily political. Actually, that's a hospital's decision. That's nothing to do with politics.
It's NHS.
That's to do with the NHS.
Let's face it. They're trying to make the NHS as bad as possible to make more people go private. That's what they're doing. I've got a lot of friends tied up in the NHS system at the moment, and it's the doctors and nurses, bless them, are doing their absolute best. But the system is absolutely broken.
It's layer upon layer of management.
And they want to break it
more
because they want you to take private health and then they don't have to pay for it.
I can't afford private health, Kev. I can't afford that.
Political.
I can't afford that Nikon. I can't afford a private health. What are you saying here?
No, exactly.
I'll be going to the local Thatcham witch doctor. That's where I'll be going.
And Aaron Bevan will be rolling in his tomb.
Yeah. Right, go on, do a question. Let's rescue Kev from the political hole that he's in.
I thought I'd finished for the day. Right.
No, you haven't. You were getting going. You were getting going politics.
I had a good one. Now, where was it? It was an interesting one. Hang on. Maybe it was an email I saw that came in and we haven't got to it yet. Right, anyway, okay, we'll just go with this. And Nigel Baton says, "Hey guys, I've always had a laptop and ejected my hard drives before closing down. I'm looking at purchasing a desktop and wondered, as the hard drives will always be attached to this one, do I still need to eject them before closing down?"
Absolutely not. That's a very easy question, isn't it? No?
That's right. No, don't worry about it, Nigel. Just enjoy it.
Yeah. No ejection seat necessary. When you don't eject stuff, how much damage can you actually do? Because I know you get lots of warning signs up saying, "Oh, you've done this, you've done that," and sort of waggy finger looks at you from the computer. How much damage can it actually do, Kev?
Pass. You don't have to do it on Windows. You never really have had to eject even memory cards from the slots and stuff like that. Yeah, but I don't know. Probably can damage.
So in other words, maybe it's Apple just being a little bit too security, too safety conscious. I don't know. Maybe
you can right click and eject, but it doesn't really. It's never really been. I think actually in the later versions of Windows 11 that's even gone away, but. Don't know. Pass. If your computer has an eject button on your SD card, then probably better to do it.
Yeah. Right, that's it for another couple of weeks. Hopefully soon, Kev, we might have an interesting, very exciting thing to reveal. I was hoping we might have it this time, but we haven't. So it'll be hopefully next time.
Maybe.
In the meantime, if you could please send in your questions. I think the cupboard is looking a little bare again. So send them to Facebook. You can send them to the email address, which is click@fujicast.co.uk. Or, Kev, if we're going on to Facebook, how do we do it?
Go to the Fujicast Facebook group, press join, either myself, Neil, or the moderators, Steve and Peter will accept you, assuming that you look nice. And then at the top is the post that says questions for the show thread.
And you just join in. That's it. As easy as.
Yeah. And also that's where you will find lots and lots of discussions about all good things, photography, and also good things like pick time.
And we will also leave the links for today's show, including, I think, a link to Kev's new front room. Which I think you need. See you in a couple of weeks, Kev. Bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.